For only the second time in 15 years, Arsenal are in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. 9 goals in the previous round, second place in the Premier League, and playing with a sense of identity like few other teams in Europe. Standing in their way now is none other than Real Madrid. But for a club that has reset, refined, and reloaded, this matchup might be exactly what they need to finally push themselves to the next level. Arsenal's return to this stage isn't just about the current season, it's the latest chapter in one of football's most historic legacies. Founded in 1886 as Dial Square, Arsenal would go on to become one of England's most successful and influential clubs. They dominated English football during the 1930s, pioneered tactics under Herbert Chapman, and established a culture that would define the club for years to come. In the decades that followed, Arsenal remained a force, winning league titles, lifting domestic cups, and even claiming 2 European trophies along the way. But it was under French manager Arsène Wenger that the Gunners truly became something special. Appointed in 1996, Wenger didn't just change Arsenal, he changed the Premier League. With a focus on elite scouting, discipline, and fluid attacking football, he turned the Gunners into one of the most fierce sides in Europe. By the early 2000s, Arsenal weren't just winning trophies, they were dominating their opposition. With legendary players like Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, Patrick Vieira, and Robert Pires, their football was electric, intelligent, and effortless. By 2004, they reached their peak, completing an entire Premier League season without a single defeat. 26 wins, 12 draws, and 0 losses. An achievement that has never been replicated and that earned them the title of the Invincibles, a team so iconic it's become Premier League heritage. But success can fade fast in football, and the Gunners were about to learn that lesson the hard way. What followed the Invincibles was not exactly a sudden collapse. It was a steady, agonizing descent into mediocrity. The move to the Emirates Stadium in 2006 was supposed to launch a new era. Instead, it stretched the club financially and forced a more conservative approach. Over the next 9 seasons, Arsenal would go on to finish in the top 4 every single year, but never higher than 3rd. They were still good, at times even brilliant, but never good enough. As legends slowly left the club, they were replaced with players who just couldn't carry the same weight. Arsenal had gone from building superstars to selling them. Although some of the beautiful football remained, these silverware certainly didn't. And in the most important trophy of them all, the Champions League, Arsenal became stuck in a brutal loop. From 2011 to 2017, they were knocked out in the round of 16 for 7 consecutive seasons. 5 of those exits came against Barcelona or Bayern Munich, often in humiliating fashion, including back-to-back 5-1 defeats to Bayern in 2017. As the Premier League evolved, with Chelsea, City, and later Liverpool building dynasties, Arsenal stood still. By 2018, the club hadn't won the league in 14 years. Champions League football was gone, the style of play had eroded, and the sense of direction had all but vanished. But when fans' Wenger outcalls were finally answered that same year, it came with a harsh reminder. Be careful what you wish for, because what followed Wenger's departure was even more painful. Unai Emery lasted just over a season. Freddie Ljungberg didn't even make it to 8 games. By the time Arsenal legend Mikel Arteta took over in December 2019, the team hadn't won a league match in nearly 2 months and were sitting 10th in the table. Many hoped that the Spanish coach, who had just spent his first 3 years of retirement working besides Pep Guardiola at Manchester City, could help return winning DNA to the club. But the squad still lacked cohesion, and as the pandemic emptied stadiums and disrupted routines, pandemic Arsenal became a meme, a team with no confidence, no energy, and no answers. For the first time in decades, Arsenal weren't just underachieving, they were drifting into irrelevance, and fixing it was not going to be an easy job. Arteta had come in with a clear vision for the club, but the work ahead of him and his team was monumental. He had inherited an unbalanced squad, oversized contracts, and a fan base that had lost belief. This wasn't just a rebuild, it was a top-to-bottom restructuring. But that's exactly what the Spaniard wanted. Fresh off his stint under Pep, Arteta had arrived not just with tactical ideas, but with a blueprint for how a modern football club should operate. From day one, his standards were non-negotiable. Ozil, Aubameyang, Mkhitaryan were all names with status, but names alone had no place in his new system. Contracts were terminated, and high earners were cut loose. It didn't matter who you were, if you didn't fit in, you were out.
You're fired.
And behind the scenes, the transformation was just as sharp. Arteta and technical director Edu took full control of recruitment, shifting the focus onto younger players with high tactical IQ and room to grow. But progress was never going to be linear. Even after winning the FA Cup in his first season, things got much worse before they could get better. By the end of 2020, Arsenal sat 15th in the league as the team struggled to implement Arteta's footballing philosophy. If not for the pandemic's unusual circumstances, Arteta would have probably been sacked. Yet the club stuck with him, and over the next 2 seasons, the rebuild started taking shape. They moved decisively in the market, signing Ben White, Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, and Odegaard, all under 24 and all brought in with a clear sense of purpose. Instead of stale possession, Arsenal played with rhythm and structure, passing triangles, positional control, and coordinated pressing. Influences of Guardiola were clear, but Arteta's version was more vertical and more pragmatic. Players like Saka, Smith-Rowe, and later Martinelli brought flair and verticality, and Odegaard became the team's heartbeat. Gradually, Arsenal's new identity started taking shape, and by 2023, the Gunners were flying, displaying a sense of freedom, fluency, and fearlessness that had them at the top of the league for 248 days before falling just short in the final weeks. It was a heartbreaking way to finish the season, but it was still a clear sign of progress, because for the first time in years, Arsenal had a winning system. This season, they've evolved again. Despite the Premier League being all but decided, Arsenal sits second in the table and have been miles better than any team except Liverpool. Their football is calmer, more controlled, and more complete than ever. The chaos of the early rebuild has given way to its maturity and composure. Declan Rice has transformed the midfield, anchoring transitions, breaking lines, and setting the tempo. Kai Havertz and Gabriel Jesus have proven themselves as key attacking options. Saliba and Gabriel are as good as any center-back pairing in the continent. And statistically, they're elite, with the fewest goals conceded and fewest shots allowed in the Premiership. Even in the Champions League, a stage that used to torment them, they've looked fearless. They finished third in the inaugural league phase behind only Liverpool and Barcelona. They dismantled PSV in the round of 16, and now they're 180 minutes away from their first semi-final since 2009. But if Arsenal really want to prove that this team is ready to contend with the best in Europe, they'll have to face their biggest challenge yet. Beating Real Madrid is never just about playing well, it's about surviving the moments when you're not. Madrid are the masters of chaos, a team that can look vulnerable for 90 minutes and then tear your heart out in two. They don't need control, they don't even need rhythm. They need one mistake, one moment, or 1 inch of space. And that's exactly what Arsenal can't give them. To win this tie, Arsenal have to do 3 things, and do them better than ever. First, dictate the tempo. Madrid thrive in transition, where shape disappears and instincts take over. But Arsenal have become masters of structure, using inverted fullbacks, box midfield, and tight passing triangles to control time and space. If Odegaard and Rice can slow the game down when needed and speed it up when Madrid least expect it, the Gunners can shift the balance of chaos in their favor. Second, punish their weaknesses. This is not the Real Madrid of old. Their backline, especially in transition, can be exposed. Arsenal's best attacking sequences come from underlaps, overlaps, and rotations in wide areas that pull defenders apart. Jesus and Havertz are out, but with Saka, Martinelli, and Trossard attacking at speed, Arsenal can hurt them, but only if they're ruthless. No missed chances, no hesitation. Third, and maybe most important, stay mentally locked in. Madrid live off collapses. They smell fear, and if you switch off even for a second, they will punish you. Without Gabriel, their most physical and aggressive center-back, Arsenal's defensive line will need to be sharper than ever. And lastly, beating Madrid won't just take talent, it'll take belief. But for the first time in years, Arsenal have both. Now it's just time to find out if they have enough.